Hi, I'm Kelly Mead.
Hi, I'm Nick Massey.
We work at Haley and Aldrich, and we've been working with Harvard Medical School to help improve the project delivery experience for customers and staff. And this provides a bit of an update of how we've been working with the team and what we can expect moving forward. Our job is really to work with people in the built environment to find ways of making the work easier and more fun and less wasteful, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to do good work, and we want to help create more inspiring spaces to solve the world's challenges, which is a great alignment with Harvard Medical School because you really have a mission that focuses on an inclusive community and improving well-being and excellence in teaching and learning and leadership. So the process of delivering projects should support that mission and look like it and feel like it, because everyone deserves a good work experience to help realize their potential. So what we did was get together and work with the Harvard Medical School teams from planning, engineering, construction, facilities, and customers to take a look at project delivery today. So what did this process look like? Well, many of you who are listening to this were probably in the room when we did the kickoff this past summer in 2019. And the process is really one of engaging with people doing the work. And we did that by asking people what they want out of this, what they value first. And then we observed the flow of project delivery from concept through turnover. We walked the projects. We talked with you about what you do, how you do your work, and we asked questions and listened to how it's going and what's getting in the way and what ideas you have for making your work better. The whole point is to go to where the work is, to ask why, to listen, to learn, and above all, to show respect. We also did a survey to find out about people's perceptions of behaviors and culture with all staff and leaders. And so all of this provided really rich data about how it's going for people doing the work and how it's going for people receiving the work. And then we needed to synthesize all this great information. So we pulled together our findings and checked and validated things with the capital planning and facilities leadership team and with staff. We shared information about what things are going well and what the persisting problems are. And from this, we came up with a workable visual plan together. So the big idea with this improvement effort is that this should build on what already works and fix the things in the process that create frustration and pain so that everyone can continue delivering amazing projects, but with fewer heroics and more clarity and a smoother flow. So we're at the point now where some key priorities have emerged, and we'll talk more about what those are, to test out some changes that will make the process flow better and more clear and more predictable. And hopefully so that everyone can do more of their highest and best work. We spoke with customers across the spectrum of research, operations, student life, comparative medicine, and animal care. And you were so direct and helpful telling us about the work you do, what you're trying to achieve, what can get in the way of smooth project delivery, and your ongoing operations. And you also shared your ideas. And then we sat down with people delivering and maintaining projects every day, from the people who help understand the initial vision and planning, to the people who help find more sustainable materials and approaches to contribute to a sustainable environment, to the people who know how to manage your project and build workable, beautiful spaces, and all the way to the people who help respond to and maintain and operate your work environments every day. And here's what we found about what customers and stakeholders each value from project delivery. So on the left, you see a word cloud representing the most important values from customers. And then on the right, you see what was most important to people delivering the work. And Nick, I know you saw a few things from this that jumped out at you.
Yeah, I did. I think it's really interesting that if we look at the stakeholder values like PDP and the communication that the project delivery team wants, they look to me like great countermeasures, the things that can satisfy the value that the customers want. I also think, and even from hearing from some of the customers, that it's not only the value that they want, I think that they're also telling us that this is a gap in the performance that they'd like to see an improvement in. And I think this will come in handy later on when we're thinking about things to measure to see if our process is working. Let's reflect back on these things.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, with this understanding of value and what everyone wanted to get out of the PDP, it was then important that we walked through the spaces to understand how science and research is changing how your built environment needs to function, how it needs to be flexible, what aesthetics are important, what small details are important. And in fact, walking the space together from with customers, with planners, side by side, with E&C and facilities, this has so much potential to allow for scenario planning and collaboration and problem solving more frequently in the future. So you shared with us and showed us what you love about your spaces, how staff got it to work well for you, when it took a lot of effort, when you ran into hiccups. You talked about how someone solved your problem, what problems still persist, and how the science and research that you want to pursue is changing how people interact with and work in those spaces. And we talked with a lot of staff doing the work, from walking the projects to seeing what tools and resources they have access to and use, to observing meetings and seeing how staff interact with customers. So, for example, we saw that at any given time, PMs might have, project managers that is, might have several pricing exercises going on. And they have various ways of managing those tasks. We saw construction managers, Dan and Fred, walking us through several projects and spaces. And we saw how they troubleshoot and solve about 10 things before 9 a.m. just by being out in the field and talking with customers, talking with facilities and their contracting partners. We talked with Susanna and Tyra and Megan and saw how they shepherd a project from idea to concept and then work with the project managers to shepherd those projects from one stage to the next. We observed several meetings and we talked with you about what went well in that meeting and what you'd want to get better. And we also saw the tools and documentation you use to manage your projects. So we saw a lot of things and tried to listen to all the great perspectives that you shared with us. We found there are really some strong aspects of your current PDP that contribute to those customer and staff goals that you stated earlier. So, for example, there's no doubt everyone cares deeply about Harvard Medical School's mission and the importance of the work you do every day. Another standout was project managers are incredibly dedicated to ensuring that customers' key needs are met within the budget they are accountable to.
We saw exceptional strength when customers can engage in collaborative problem solving with planning and D&C and facilities. That let everybody shine, feel like they were part of the process, and really engendered that trust and communication that typifies high-performing teams. And we can take that even a step further because construction managers, trade partners, architects, and engineers are honing and developing their soft skills, which is something that we can take advantage of to deepen the value that we get from our supply chain and further work on trust and communication.
So we then pieced together kind of a visual of the project delivery process to understand where value gets blocked or where the flow is getting interrupted. And so the future state of the project delivery process is going to look roughly the same. It's going to have different details depending on what size of project and what type of project, but here are the basic guts of it. So starting from project initiation, to project definition, scoping, and feasibility, to selecting the team and onboarding, to engaging in the design and pre-construction, and then procuring the partners that will help build the space, to then getting ready in construction mobilization, and then actually building, constructing and installing and commissioning the building all the way through to turnover. So we found there were some things that can get in the way of a smooth project delivery process.
Yeah, and it's really it's so nice to be thinking about that future state. But if we can have a open dialogue about some of the obstacles, we'll be in a good position to fix them. So let's think about some of those. So the first one is an unclear definition and how that results in delayed decisions, ineffective handoffs, rework, and frustration. And really, if that isn't made, if we don't get that right at the beginning of the project, that's just something that can persist all the way through. So, understanding why we're doing something and then working on the how and the what is really powerful for teams. So that's an area we want to focus on. Another one is that we don't have standards and flexible processes, especially for areas like estimating. And when that happens, when we have variability in the processes, then overburden happens on PMs and other people in the process because they end up having to reinterpret and maybe find information again. And that really leads to the lack of ready access to the needed information. And maybe that's showing up as a problem because we have variability in our processes, so you have to go fetch data and regather data and interpret it again. And really all of that can lead to unclear project definitions, and that can make it hard both to select the appropriate delivery method and the team members that you want on your project, those to hire and that are going to give you the kind of shining collaboration that we were looking for previously.
Yeah, and that's a really key theme that we saw throughout the process. At various points, if information is invisible, it makes it difficult to see what's happening, to understand what projects are ahead or behind, who's working on them, and this creates waste, and it means we're not working on our highest priorities. When staff don't have access to tools or best practices that someone in the department might use, well, it just results in an inconsistent experience for both the staff and the customers. And it just makes it harder to make use of the talents that already exist, project managers and construction managers and facility staff. So sharing those best practices is important. We also found if we lack early involvement of the right partners, then they can't contribute their knowledge and creativity. So this is going to result in delays and rework and a real risk that projects don't meet the conditions of satisfaction. And then if we don't have methods of continuous learning, not just from past lessons, but in the moment of the project, are we identifying problems and learning quickly? Well, we're going to end up repeating the same mistakes or maybe not apply a creative way of fixing a problem because we're not passing that information along. So this just impedes staff learning and professional development. So with this view of what was really happening in the process, it was incredibly important to show that and make it visible and understand where and why and how the flow of value gets blocked. And so together, we pieced together everyone's experience and mapped out the project delivery process how it should be. What should happen? What steps should happen? When should they happen? Who should do each step? What are the key inputs and outputs to keep the project flowing well? So we really invited people to get together in the room and see their process and be able to piece it together, what would make sense. And this process produced a lot of comments and questions and new ideas. And then this map of the process as people want it to be was hung up in 3 different spaces, in planning and engineering, construction, and facilities. And each group commented and added to their posters. And we gathered all that input and merged everything together, and have at least made a start at a draft future state project delivery process that really reflects the input of everyone involved.
Yeah, and from my involvement, this was the most powerful thing, and I heard people saying this was the most powerful part of the engagement, was making this visual so that everyone could see and understand the system that they work in. It's really the responsibility of us as leaders and managers to make visible some of these invisible processes that are in really the knowledge sharing. And what really shines for me is that when you get a group together and they see how hard the work can be for others in the process, they have empathy for each other. And that leads to the natural human tendency and willingness to solve the problem together. Oh, I didn't know that that was such a heartache for you. Of course I'll help you solve that. But it's not until you make it visual that you see it.
And that comprehensive or holistic shared view of what's actually going on and what could be made it so much easier to land on priorities. So this is a real milestone that the team has reached, is identifying these important places to work that will help get to that future state project delivery process. And this is important because, everyone has limited resources, so you have to figure out what are the most important things to work on. And here are 4 areas for improvement that are intended to build on what's working well and that will address some gaps. So for number 1, the team is already developing and improving the process flow together. And one of their next steps is to map out different processes, for maybe simpler projects, from work orders to infrastructure projects to major capital showcase projects. Secondly, Harvard Medical School planning and facilities will be developing or improving project management resources and tools that will just make the daily work of managing projects easier, and that are intended to foster more daily problem solving and collaboration and transparency about what's going on and what's coming up next. And this could be anything from a simple cost benefit tool to help customers and the project team make design decisions, to running a pull planning session with all subcontractors and partners so that everyone can provide input to milestones and constraints. So these are just some of the tools that could improve the flow. For number 3, the team thinks it's really important to come up with criteria for projects and better ways of estimating or pricing so that the project manager's efforts can be matched to the project type and the likelihood of it happening. And for number 4, we want to help make it comfortable and normal to use visual tools like visual boards, regular team huddles. This will really promote daily problem solving and mutual respect and transparency. So you can imagine if everyone could see major phases and milestones of a project and the status and what problems are emerging and who's working to resolve it, you can get quicker learning, quicker problem solving, and better delivery of projects. So the idea is that if we invest in these 4 areas, this will move the team to a smoother PDP. And it's more than just documenting the process. This tries to build tools and ways of working together and communicating with each other that'll help improve the flow of work.
Well, that's really terrific. And I think that those 4 areas really lead to what this slide is trying to portray, which is that we will avoid disconnected handoffs, that we'll have continuity and customer value, and all of the different ways that the process will foster that. So the project delivery process that we're envisioning and worked on is for a typical project of $2 to $5 million for a lab or office, and the process is really meant to show, again, that even as the phases of the project change and who has primary responsible for shepherding and leading that phase, that none of the information is lost, that none of what's important to the customer is lost, so that we don't have to recreate and go through all of the hand-wringing, and this can really lead to people losing confidence in the process and starting to focus on who is to blame rather than why. And I think that what an end goal for us is really to do, and the interlocking chain is supposed to exhibit, is that we're going to come out from the potential silos that we might be in, and the kind of collaboration will lead to the amazing benefits, like really seeing red flags and deal killers early enough so that we can act on them and still meet our goals.
Yeah, and things like knowing in advance there's a possibility that the space might be used for a different purpose down the road, and having some flexibility built into the process so that the needs that we might not have defined today could maybe be met with that same space in the future. And having this honest and thorough and specific interaction with the customer and the people doing the work, that drives the roles, it drives the project delivery type. It helps inform if and when you need to get an architect involved, or whether you need pre-construction services, and what should the whole process look like, from small and simple to baseline to custom and enhanced. So this early definition and clarity can really help drive the right resources for the rest of the project. And then when we hit the design phase and pre-construction, we can still be working together, collaborating and validating the customer's conditions of satisfaction, the budget, the time, the functional needs that will support the program, the science taking place in that space. This still acts as the consistent North Star by which the team and their partners can perform design and constructability reviews and regularly make problems visible that might interfere with what that customer needs. And the point here is that all team members contribute ideas and alternatives so that they can together have confidence they'll deliver what the customer needs, their budget, their schedule, their conditions of satisfaction. So this continues to help. Having this North Star understanding of the customer's needs helps to understand why everyone's doing what they're doing on the project. It also drives selection of subcontractor partners, and those are the partners that are truly capable of fulfilling the customer's needs. The key point here in this process, what we hope to convey, is that this behavior can become a habit. Instead of thinking, well, that's not my role, or I'm not sure I should offer an opinion on something, it becomes instead, let's go and see, let's tackle this problem together, because we both have an understanding of what the end game is. And we're literally working towards the same goals.
So this next phase that we're going to talk about is when we actually start doing the work to the spaces, mobilizing, constructing, and churning over the spaces. And what can be really exciting about the PDP that we're together working toward is that by focusing on quality assurance up front, that we're building quality into our processes, we'll be less reliant on quality control later on. And this is really where teams and projects run the risk of going over budget and not hitting schedule. Now, I know that we have a good track record of hitting budget and schedule, but I also know that it comes with a lot of heroics and a lot of workarounds. And this is where we want to build stability in, and again, by working on assurance, we can avoid quality control, turnover projects with fewer problems, less callbacks, a shorter punch list, all the things that we know teams want to do. And a lot of this will happen because the team is, instead of batching operations and maintenance plans into the end, they're thinking about them up front. And I know that's something that you're interested to see, Kelly, right?
Yeah, I think this will take a lot of the burden off of both actually ENC and facilities staff. So if they know a lot of the systems and functions in advance, and so the team could be able to have about 80% of their O&M process figured out, the preventive maintenance programs in place, and many of them scheduled at this point. So this would allow for more certainty that the O&M plan will match the demands of the research programs and systems. So by the time the project is turned over, we should have a completed space that's fully functional in accordance with the customer's conditions of satisfaction, and facility staff are ready to maintain it in accordance with their operational conditions of satisfaction. So the wonderful possibility here is that there are no outstanding punch list items, because we've, as you said, Nick, built quality in, we've built the maintenance system in, we've built all these things in earlier in the process so that by the end it's a much smoother turnover.
Yeah, and all that tight collaboration is going to allow for people to make reliable promises, things they can really live up to. And that builds trust amongst the team. And all our experience shows that when trust and communication is high, anything is possible. And really the inverse is true when trust and communication are low.
So we do need to get to the point where we're able to measure these lofty goals. So how would we know if the project delivery process is getting better, that we have that trust and communication? We have some possible ways of measuring this process and our progress. It's important, whatever metrics the team ends up deciding are the most important things to track, that they keep a compelling scorecard and hold each other accountable for this PDP process, and that they're visible and tracked, so we know, okay, what things are getting better in the PDP, what things still need work. Just a couple of examples here of things that we could measure. In the past work we did, we surveyed people and asked if people felt their roles and responsibilities were clear and accountable with appropriate delegation. And our current state showed that people don't believe they have this yet. So one possible thing to measure would be, let's get to 100% of staff feeling like they have clear roles in decision making and they know where their accountability is. Another thing we could measure is the use of regular team huddles, making things visual, and also the degree to which there's learning going on in the project. So if we learn and share and solve problems and we can capture the learning during the project, this increases the team's performance. So we could be measuring, are we learning and solving problems not only at the beginning, but in the middle and the end of the project. One company we know of actually tracks the time it takes to clear up constraints or clear up problems. So that's another possible measure. The key here is pick a few things that are really going to give you a leading indication that things are on track and that the process is moving smoothly. So what are we already learning from this? Well, the Harvard Medical School team already reflected that just the process of making things visual was hugely valuable. We heard from people outside of construction, for example, from IT and finance, that this systematic approach to collaboration and problem solving to deliver a project was transferable to many areas. So that's a good learning right there, that this collaborative process, making things visual and making the process work for the people doing the work, can be really powerful. And we also heard from an end user that the future PDP could give him what he wanted, which was a daily sense of confidence that he knew what was going on and he could plan his work. So the Harvard Medical School project delivery team is really looking forward to partnering with you, with customers and stakeholders as they pilot and test new ways of working And they'll need your feedback. What things are getting better? What things still need work? And of course, what ideas do you have? Your feedback is really critical to their success. And finally, this will require some patience. This improvement effort won't be perfect as they try these new ways, but over time, they will be able to shift to an improved project delivery process that is smoother and delivers projects that meet your conditions of satisfaction. So we look forward to seeing what emerges from this effort. We hope this update has been helpful and, like us, gives you the same sense of optimism based on what this project delivery team is capable of and their strong commitment to Harvard Medical School. Thanks for listening.